The words from my parents hit me like a gavel slamming down in a courtroom. Final and absolute. Family sacrifices for family, my father snapped, his jaw tight, his eyes burning with authority that demanded obedience. You have to help your sister, my mother added, her voice sharp and urgent, as though pleading. But underneath that plea was an edge that cut deep. They weren't suggestions. They weren't gentle requests. They were orders wrapped in the language of family loyalty. I sat there at the dining table, my plate untouched, the warmth of the food turning cold just like the air around me. I didn't answer. I didn't argue. I simply stared at the wood, grain of the table as though it could swallow me whole. My silence was my only weapon, though they mistook it for weakness. What they didn't know, they could never have imagined, was that I already knew the truth. My sister wasn't the victim they painted her to be. She wasn't the angel child in need of saving. No, she was the one who had been stealing from me all along. When we were younger, things had been different, or maybe I only believed they were. My sister and I used to share secrets under the covers when thunderstorms shook the house. She would sneak into my room, trembling with fear, and curl up beside me. "You make me feel safe," she whispered once, her little hands clinging to my shirt, and I believed her. I believed we were allies, but life has a way of peeling back masks. As we grew older, she learned how to turn that bond into leverage. She learned how to make me the protector, the provider, the shield she could always hide behind while she ran wild. She was the golden child, reckless, adored, forgiven. Every misstep was excused as youthful mistakes or her creative spirit. My parents celebrated her, doted on her, wrapped her in a cushion of endless second chances. And me, I was the shadow, the quiet one, the responsible one, the child who carried burdens without being asked, who was dependable to a fault. When money went missing, I covered it. When she cried, I comforted her. When she failed, I picked up the slack. But shadows grow heavy, and sometimes they sharpen into something far stronger. The first clue came last year. I was checking my account one night, something I did religiously, my own quiet discipline after years of scrimping and saving. And I noticed it. A withdrawal. Small, almost laughably insignificant, just a few dollars missing. Bank error, I thought, no big deal. But then it happened again. Another small amount. And again. So tiny, so carefully measured that most people would dismiss it. But I don't dismiss anything. I dug deeper. I traced transactions. I tracked every line of my statements with a magnifying eye. And the truth revealed itself like blood rising to the surface of a wound. It wasn't an error. It wasn't chance. It was her. She had been siphoning money from me for months, using old access I had once given her back when we were close. Back when trust still meant something. At first, I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but something inside me told me to wait. Betrayal isn't just an act. It's a window into someone's soul. If she could do it once, she would do it again, and again, and again. And she did. So I gathered everything. Screenshots of bank transfers, statements marked with red circles, even emails she carelessly sent to friends bragging about how easy it was to trick me. How dumb I was for not noticing. That was the night something inside me shifted. My trust didn't just break, it died. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't run to my parents begging them to finally see her for who she was. No, I went quiet. Quiet people are the most dangerous. From that day, I planned. Every dollar I earned, I locked away into new accounts under my sole name. I moved my savings into investments that required biometric access. I built walls of steel around everything I had worked for. And the best part, I let her believe she still had power over me, because when people think they're winning, they grow careless. They get sloppy. Sloppy people always fall. So when she came waltzing into our parents' home one weekend, her hair perfectly curled, her lips glossed, her voice dripping with ambition as she presented her startup pitch, I almost laughed. It was pathetic. A recycled idea she barely understood, wrapped in shiny buzzwords stolen from the internet. But my parents? They fell for it instantly. She just needs a chance, my mother said. her eyes glowing with blind pride. "Help your sister," my father commanded, his voice a hammer on the table. "Empty your savings. Family sacrifices for family." Looked at them then, calm as still water. One word. Flat. Final. They thought it was rebellion. They thought it was selfishness. They thought I was cruel. They didn't know that by the time they asked, I had already moved everything into accounts she could never touch. They didn't know her startup had already been doomed before it began because I had the evidence. Every shred of her theft, every email, every bragging message. And I wasn't just holding it, I was ready to use it. 2 days later, her deep world began to unravel. First, the account she had proudly flaunted to investors froze. The funds she had secured evaporated, locked under investigation. The website she had copied word for word from another company was flagged and reported. For plagiarism, the investors she lied about? They received neat, tidy packages from me, full documentation of her theft, her fraud, her arrogance, piece by piece. Her shiny empire collapsed. She never even saw me move. The phone call came early in the morning. My mother's voice was frantic, ragged with panic. "They froze everything. Your sister is being investigated. Did you know about this?" I almost laughed right there, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed silent, letting her desperation hang heavy in the air. They were waiting for me to rush in, to fix it like I always had, to sacrifice myself yet again, but I didn't, because now they finally understood. I hadn't refused to help out of selfishness. I had refused because my sister had been feeding off me like a parasite for years. Let them choke on the bitter truth themselves. The golden child wasn't golden at all. That morning, I stood at my apartment window with a cup of coffee in hand. The sunlight crept across the floor, warm and steady. My phone buzzed with unanswered calls, messages filled with desperation and guilt. And for the first time in years, I felt clarity. My sister had played her game, and I had played mine. But unlike her, I don't bluff. I don't gamble. I calculate. I execute. I finish. My parents had told me all my life that family meant sacrifice. They were wrong. Family means accountability. And she had earned hers. So I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I didn't defend myself. I simply walked away, and in that silence, she lost everything.